I still don't have an intro, but I'm here to bring you my TBR for the Queer Lit Readathon. The Queer Lit Readathon is my favorite readathon, and I will leave more information about it in case you aren't familiar with it below. But it is a readathon that takes place throughout the month of June now, and the whole goal is to read queer books, so, you know, always, we love to see it. There's also a bingo board, which is entirely optional. But I did plan my TBR based around the prompts, and I am going to get one bingo, provided I am able to get one of the books from the library. If I'm not, the bingo goes out the window. But hey, you know, it's fine. But without further ado, let's get into the books. In Kathy's TBR video, she read the, synopsises from the books instead of trying to, describe them herself, and I thought that was, neat. I do feel like one of them, specifically the first one, gives too much away, so I'm actually only going to be reading the first paragraph. But the rest of them, I feel like it doesn't make sense to try and cut it off, because then it's awkwardly phrased. So the rest, I'm just gonna read the whole thing, but the first one I am going to cut short, because I kinda wish I hadn't read it, so I'm not gonna impose that on you. But without further ado, let us get to the books. I don't really have a particular order I'm planning on reading these in, but I am going to be going over them in, challenge order, basically, so on, according to the bingo board, basically. But I'm going to be reading all of them throughout the month of June, hopefully, but I don't have a particular order. However, one of the prompts I'm fulfilling is the first one on the very top of the square, and that is the prompt of outside. And along with outside, this book will also be covering the create your own category, which I have decided is just going to be Queer World War I, because that is now my brand. So the book that I will be reading that covers both of those prompts is Dry Land, and let me read you, this is the one I'm going to only read the first paragraph on. As the Great War rages across Europe, Rand Brant, an idealistic forester in the North Woods of Wisconsin, discovers a remarkable gift. His touch can grow any plant in minutes. Overjoyed, he dreams of devoting his life to conservation, restoring to its former glory a landscape devastated by lumbering. At night, Rand tests his powers, pushing his physical limits and revealing his secret only to his lover, Gabriel. But his frequent absences from camp don't go unnoticed, and it isn't long before Rand is drafted to grow timber for the war effort. Along with Gabriel, he's shipped to France, though the army is a dangerous place for two men in love. And that is where I'm leaving it. But yes, so Queer World War I, but also add cool fucking magic in it. And outside because, you know, plants. So it fits, I feel like, with that. And then obviously, it is Queer World War I, so it fits with my Queer World War I prompt. But yes, I am very excited to read this in my attempt to read all of the Queer World War I books that I can. And next, for the prompt, Small Town Queers and hopefully borrowed, if I'm able to get the audiobook from the library, is Camp Damascus. And I will go ahead and read the full synopsis of this one, because I don't feel like it's too much. Nestled high up in the mountains is Camp Damascus, the self-proclaimed most effective gay conversion camp in the country. Here, a life free from sin awaits, but the secret behind that success is anything but holy. From Chunk Tingle, beloved internet icon, comes a searing and earnest horror debut about the demons the queer community faces in this country, the price of keeping secrets, and finding the courage to burn it all down. So, yes. I am excited to read this as I have been reading a bit more horror lately. And also, I've heard really good things about it, and I just happened to get this copy from like one of those blind date with the books. And so I'll be reading it regardless, but I'm really hoping that I'm able to get the audiobook from the library so it can also count for the borrowed prompt and I can get the bingo. But regardless, I do plan on reading this. And it also covers small town queers because, like, you know, the conversion camp, it's like, you know, it's in the mountains, it's secluded, it's a small town, so it works. That's not even a big stretch compared to what I'm going to get to. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Next, for the prompts short and sweet and continued, is Fence of Volume 6. I am not going to read you the back of this because it is Volume 6. So instead, I will just say that Fence is a comic series about this guy named Nicholas, who wants to be like the best fencer ever and basically ends up going to this boarding school and like is on the fencing team, and he ends up being roommates with like the like best fencer there who he did face in a competition and lost to, and it's like a whole enemies / rivals to lovers thing, and it's great. So this is obviously short, it's a comic, and then it's continued because it is Volume 6 in the series. I am low-key kind of ashamed I haven't read it yet because I got it literally, I think, 2 years ago. But comes in handy for these two prompts, so, you know, that's that. The next book, I actually just got in the mail today. Very exciting. And it's going to be covering the Prompt 2025 release, and that is The Lilac People. I got it in a giveaway hosted by Audrey over at Perpetual Pages. And I'm very excited to read it. I will read you the, actually, I'm gonna read you all that's in here, because I also have to read the top part, because it's important that you know this. A moving and deeply humane story about a trans man who must relinquish the freedoms of pre-war Berlin to survive first the Nazis and then the Allies while protecting the ones he loves, for readers of All the Light We Cannot See and In Memoriam. I have a custom candle referencing In Memoriam, and I feel like I, did... Was that the Insomnia vlog? I don't remember. But basically, fucking love In Memoriam. It's one of my favorite books. And so, obviously, I was very excited to read this, not only because of that pitch, but also because I am also fascinated by, post-World War I, pre-World War II Berlin, and how, the, Institute of Sexual Science, that's going to be referenced in a bit, was, just so ahead of its time, and how... Anyway, I'm not going to get into it too much, but I've been fascinated by that as well, so I'm very excited to read this book. And here is more about it. In 1932 Berlin, a trans man named Bertie and his friends spend carefree nights at the El Dorado Club, the epicenter of Berlin's thriving queer community. An employee of the renowned Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld at the Institute of Sexual Science, Bertie works to improve queer rights in Germany and beyond. But everything changes when Hitler rises to power. The Institute is raided, the El Dorado is shuttered, and queer people are rounded up. Bertie barely escapes with his girlfriend Sophie to a nearby farm. There, they take on the identities of an elderly couple and live for more than a decade in isolation. In the final days of the war, with their freedom in sight, Bertie and Sophie find a young trans man collapsed on their property, still dressed in Holocaust prison clothes. They vow to protect him, not from the Nazis, but from the Allied forces who are arresting queer prisoners while liberating the rest of the country. Ironically, as the Allies' vice grip closes on Bertie and his family, their only salvation is to flee to the United States. Brimming with hope, resilience, and the enduring power of community, the Lilac People tells an extraordinary story inspired by real events and recovers an unknown moment of World War II and trans history. So, yes, very excited to get destroyed by this book. There's also, if you do have Netflix, and at least in the US, there's a really good documentary on the El Dorado Club that I recommend. I think I watched it like 2 years ago at this point, but it's really interesting. So, yes, but that is the 2025 release that I will be reading. And then, covering the prompt of one-time author, because I have read one book by this author, but I have not read any other books by this author, is The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. I read Hell Followed With Us, and I haven't read anything else. So I'm excited to read this one. And then I also have Compound Fracture, which is like the newest one that he's released. But I'm not reading that for this readathon, so we're just going to talk about this one. Let me read you the synopsis. London, 1883. The veil between the living and the dead has thinned. Violet-eyed mediums commune with spirits under the watchful eye of the Royal Speaker Society, and 16-year-old Silas Bell would rather rip out his violet eyes than become an obedient speaker wife. According to Mother, he'll be married by the end of the year. It doesn't matter that he's needed a decade of tutors to hide his autism, that he practices surgery on slaughtered pigs, that he is a boy, not the girl the world insists on seeing. After a failed attempt to escape an arranged marriage, Silas is diagnosed with veil sickness, a mysterious disease sending violet-eyed women into madness, and shipped away to Braxton's finishing school and sanatorium. The facility is cold and the instructors merciless, and the students either bloom into eligible wives or disappear. When the ghosts of missing students start begging Silas for help, he decides to reach into Braxton's innards and expose its guts to the world, if the school doesn't break him first. So, yes, I'm very interested in this one. I've been interested in this one since, like, it was announced. I just never got around to reading it. But I very much enjoyed Hell Followed With Us, and I'm very much looking forward to obviously the historical side of this. Not dystopian apocalyptic. It's history, which I love. So I'm very excited to read this one finally. And yeah, it's the one-time author. I saved it for this readathon because I knew this prompt was going to exist. And then I actually don't think I'm going to get to this book considering everything else that I've mentioned. But I did put it on here, and I did stretch the prompt to fit it. This book has been on my TBR for, I think, 10 years at this point. And it's going to be covering the 1990s prompts. Not because it was released in the 1990s or takes place in the 1990s, but because the copyright was renewed in the 90s. And that book is Fire from Heaven by Mary Renault, the first in the Alexander the Great trilogy that she wrote. Let me confirm, I think it was 1998, but yeah, 1998 was when the copyright was renewed. I was looking through my bookshelves, I was thinking, I really need to fucking read this book. It's been so long, and I still haven't read it. can I relate that to anything in the Queer Lit Readathon challenges? And I didn't think so at first. But then I opened it, and I was like, okay, I don't think it was, honestly, to be honest, I was like, was that published in the 90s? I didn't think it was, but I had to make sure, and that's when I realized, no, it was published originally in 1969. However, the copyright was renewed in 1998. So it fits the prompt. I wasn't going to read the back of the book because, one, my AC, which is obnoxiously loud, just turned on. I don't know if you can hear it, you probably can. And two, it's Alexander the Great, you probably know who that is. But since I read the synopsis on the back or side, for the rest of them, minus Spence for obvious reasons, I'm gonna do it for this one to just stay on track, because this is the first in a series, so it's not like it has the fence excuse. So here we go. Alexander the Great died at the age of 33, leaving behind an empire that stretched from Greece and Egypt to India, and a new cosmopolitan model for Western civilization. In this stunning work of historical fiction, Mary Renault vividly imagines the world of this charismatic leader whose drive and ambition created a legend. Fire from Heaven tells the story of Alexander's childhood, when the young boy's defiant character was molded into the makings of a king. His mother, Olympias, and his father, King Philip of Macedon, fought each other for their son's loyalty, teaching Alexander politics and vengeance from the cradle. His love for the youth Hephaestion, on whom he depended for the rest of his life, taught him to trust, while Aristotle's tutoring provoked his mind, and Homer's Iliad fueled his aspirations. He killed his first man in battle at the age of 12 and became the commander of Macedon's cavalry at 18. By the time his father was murdered and he needed to accede to the throne, Alexander's skills had grown to match his fiery ambition. In Fire from Heaven and the two subsequent novels about Alexander's world, The Persian Boy and Funeral Games, Mary Renault has provided a thrilling and intimate portrait of one of history's most fascinating figures. So, it's queer because Alexander's in love with Hephaestion, and it says that on the back. Keep in mind, again, this was originally published in 1969. We stan Mary Renault. And I, unfortunately, still have not read any of her books. I am ashamed. I don't know what else to say. I've tried, I think, reading this at least twice, and I never get behind, I never get past the first chapter. I don't know why. I mean, it was published in, I guess, 1969, so the writing is a little, like, you know, stiff-ish. But I never super felt like that was the reason. I don't know. But, you know, if I do manage it in June because of this loose interpretation of the 1990s prompt, I will be very proud of myself. And I thought, why not try so it's in here? So those are all the books that I am going to be reading for the Queer Lit Readathon. Hopefully I will be able to finish all of them, but let me know if you've read any of them, what you thought about them in the comments, or, you know, literally anything else. Or don't. It's up to you. But that's all I got. I don't know when the next video will be, but I will see you in it.